We'd always been speculating about, well, what is the movie? And back in 2019, he actually finally got a partnership with a company called Tune to Tango. They basically agreed to produce a Rebel Nature TV series. One of the things that I really wanted to know was about the budget. If Tune to Tango was supporting the project financially, they are not. Faber told us straight up that they're just promoting the project, but there's really no money involved in it. All of the articles indicated that Tune to Tango would be handling the global distribution and kind of develop the show for video on demand, print media, OTT.
Clearly they are doing stuff for the show, but I will say that I don't think it's possible to create a full television series with zero financial backing.
He has been looking for partners for funding, but also there was this case study from Picture This where he talked about a lot of processes involved with Rebel Nature, where they have this very large LED wall they can display their 3D environments and take live action elements and kind of composite various shots together. That's kind of what seems to be more the stable way that they're producing it, and apparently it is also more cost effective because they don't have to shop for locations. They can just generate them. And that's actually something that they talked about in one of the Rebel vlogs, was that while they were shooting at a location, they had also scanned the entire environment in 3D, so they would be able to bring in those 3D shots and kind of meld everything together in a cohesive way. The shots that they've put out have been fairly impressive. I was kind of taken aback by just how good it actually looks from this case study. It's very clear they've worked with the technology, continually experimenting. The results are coming in, finally. It'll still be quite a long time till we actually get to see something be released because of how he's still looking for partners. And he basically will take as long as he wants, which I know is frustrating for people, but that's just how he's going about it. He's trying to do a lot of new things, and that can be hard to figure out. So I kind of do understand that. So he did another Rebel vlog a couple of years ago, in that he showcases the development process for the teaser. To actually get the shot of Scraper's hand reaching down, they actually made the big hand as an actual prop. There's this ominous shot of Faber having this huge glove trying to point at this baby, because they did actually get real babies. It wasn't just CGI, except for they did use a doll in some shots. It's pretty great.
I really want that big hand prop because I am a big fan of big hands. Faber, if you are listening to this, I have one request. If you could send me the hand, I will write some Rebel Nature fan fiction.
It's been 3 years since we last talked about Rebel Nature. In our previous episode, Christian Faber did comment on it, and all of the stuff that we had talked about, like Escape Rig 21 and the virtual reality experience that he showed off, was for experimental purposes, for his team to get to grips with all of the various technology that they're using.
A lot of people would look at creating a bunch of small little projects under the same umbrella of a franchise that doesn't actually exist and be like, but why not actually produce an actual product? But that's not the way that Faber's mind works, is that the experimentation, the journey is as much an important part as the destination. That's very much the mindset that Faber takes to a lot of his different projects.
What is Rebel Nature? He succinctly tells us it's an open, creative invitation. But what does that even mean? He wants everyone to be kind of a part of the process. So right now, at this very moment, we talking about Rebel Nature are, in a sense, part of the Rebel Nature universe or franchise. As we've kind of said in the past, a lot of aspects of Rebel Nature have been nebulous. He wants to kind of get a lot of people involved, but it's still hard to hone in on how that's implemented. There is a Rebel Nature blog and even a Rebel Nature YouTube channel, but a centralized place for all of the Rebel Nature media currently does not exist. There's this conference Faber attended called the Next Summit, and he described a lot of the structure of the story of Rebel Nature, where he has this kind of trilogy. And in a sense, he wants to mirror real life, and the kind of time spans that he wants to go after is 2020 to 2032. Seemingly, the story will center around Rez's parents, who go missing in the actual Rebel Nature story. They are scientists that, have done some kind of experiment that caused a lot of problems. Waveborn, which was the kind of film idea. Waveborn is actually the years when Rez is growing up on Rig 21. I guess it would end with her eventual confrontation with Mind 1. And then the Rebel Nature story starts proper.
The way that he describes it here is, imagine the Jungle Book with technology replacing the jungle. That kind of is what the concept of being raised by a robot is. It's just, instead of Baloo, you've got a big massive robot with big massive hands.
How it starts is with Rez as a baby. She's in the safepod near to Rig 21. It's just been floating in the ocean for who knows how long. Scraper, along with Whale M, notices the safepod, goes to it, and finds this baby. With these arcs, there are more details. There's actually this post that Faber made on his Instagram where he basically flipped through the Rebel Nature story and design manual. So I went frame by frame and tried to glean information off of it, and surprisingly, there was actually quite a bit. In Edge of the Deep, the sort of synopsis for it is that two young scientists set out to change the world and set off a monster that they had never imagined. The dream of the parents will become the nightmare of the next generation. In the Rebel Nature 2020 teaser, there's a shot of a couple of people. Their names are Jeff Goodman and Vera Goodman. We were speculating about Goodman Rock. Perhaps Goodman is a last name. I think that was what you were speculating. You were totally right.
The assumption that could be made here is that Jeff and Vera Goodman are Rez's parents.
Seemingly.
So are you telling me the protagonist's true surname is Goodman?
Yeah.
Why not just have it be like Joseph and Katrina protagonist? Like
hero protagonist, like that one.
Snow Crash.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see what exactly they create that is such a big problem in the future. Whether that's something mechanical, biological, whether it's a combination of both.
This 3-part story structure, this is kind of like a higher level overview of things, kind of like different books of Rebel Nature, but then it'll be split up into smaller chapters. So Destiny Afloat seems to be either sometime during Waveborn or Edge of the Deep. What it says is that, imagine building, programming, and training a drone that has to save your own grandchild sometime in the near future. That makes me think the Goodmans, they're trying to rescue their daughter, but I don't know if this is Rig 21 here. Might be a different rig.
I think it is a different rig. This is a wind turbine, which I'm pretty sure Rig 21 doesn't have.
In that story and design manual, there's actually a shot of various robots that are on the rig. They're called primates. Primal robots, perhaps. Scraper is semi-conscious. He does have the ability to learn and be empathetic, but also has a lot of stuff programmed into him that he calls EBMP for empathic beta mind programming, or for short, bit feelings. Essentially what he says is that finding back to a new humanity in the near future where AI will mirror us and evolve is a theme in the Rebel Nature story. So the robots can evolve in some fashion. There's a representation of the gardener, who is one of the scientists at Goodman Rock. Faber elaborated on his situation in our interview with him. There was like a very brief shot of certain locations. I can't make out one of them, which is like a jungle location, but the other one is clearly called Seabed Desert. And there was actually a concept that Faber did back in 2016 where there was these scientists, they were riding in this very interesting looking scooter. He calls it a gyro scooter.
It's strangely organic in its shape, where this vehicle looks like it almost could be like a living creature. Honestly, what it reminds me the most of is actually the xenomorph from Alien. It has very Geiger energy to me.
We see a bunch of drones, one in a forested area, and one of these snitch drones, which essentially seem to be like one of the main enemies almost. This post is like, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's a snitch drone on the hunt for renegade machines. That makes me kind of think that, like, they're not primates, that they are programmed like classical machines. There's this idea that there aren't really humans around by the time the rebel nature occurs, so that they're only like biomechanical beings and robots. Obviously, in Edge of the Deep, there's humans, but maybe all the humans died because of the thing that occurred.
He mentions, like, who is catching who, as if the immediate response would be like, oh, well, clearly that's the drone catching the fish. But I almost wonder if the fish isn't also trying to catch the drone to a certain extent. Maybe somehow they've adapted to, like, eat metal or plastic or something like that, so that it's actively trying to, like, attract the drone so that it can consume its essence.
There's like a little concept of a brittle star making its way into the city, again getting into how these things may occur, where this brittle star has come from the sewers seeking polymer food. It's only because of the rising sea level that they were able to do that. That is sort of, oh yeah, global warming is no good. But what are the more subtle effects of it? It isn't hard science, but there's actually this one concept that has a kind of reference to Bionicle. Something alien is creeping up from the deep. It's these mutated barnacles, which are really terrifying looking. Seemingly it looks like attached to a whale. One of the only posts that has had any story indication was this one, a Rebel story ready for a new 2021 reality. It's this image of Rez, the safepod, and a little drone. They're in this icy area called the Mid-Ocean Ice Cluster. They spot this large shipping container for Easy Life, and Scraper is like, oh no, that's top dangerous, which just reminds me of some kind of Lunchable lore. Never sailed the safe pod in there, but her curiosity is too big. I have to go and see what ancient treasures this metal crate might hold. Survival stuff or answers from the past. Her drone mind training is starting to pay off. This mechanical eye in the sky is starting to look out for her. A friend of some kind, built by her own mind and decisions. She's searching for her parents, so it's just cool to see this represented in some fashion. And it brings back her ability to control drones with her mind.
Like Neo from The Matrix.
A lot of these are just sort of snapshots of potentials and ideas and concepts.
Cryoshell has also been making some new tracks. 3 have come out in the last few years. I really enjoy the music that Cryoshell puts out. Slipping is the one that I've listened to the most.
Cryoshell is interesting to me because their vibe no longer exists in pop media, where, you know, you've got this, for lack of a better term, edgy sort of music.
Stuff that sounds like Evanescence and Linkin Park.
That is very indicative of the era it came out in, which is to say the early 2000s.
We talked to Faber about his plans to implement this open creative invitation. He's been leaning towards blockchain technology and NFTs, which have gone under a lot of scrutiny for many different reasons. It's just sort of like a kind of technology that allows for the creation of unique certificates for different media. He's sort of gone back and forth on it, depending on, honestly, the responses that people have given. Because to actually create a kind of digital certificate with this technology takes an inordinate amount of power to generate these things that is disproportionate to their value, honestly. We do not support this technology. I think that there's better modes in which you can connect people together, such as like a website or an app, perhaps, that all the Rebel Nature media could be collected or codified by some process, because there is a big environmental aspect to Rebel Nature, and I sort of think that the reason why Faber wants to use NFTs is partly because of funding.
I can understand it from an artistic standpoint that it is a way to have a certain amount of provenance, but like they just eat up so much energy, and frankly, to justify it for that use, I just can't see an argument for it.
I think most people that would engage in NFTs would probably not actually be enthused about the project itself. Like, I think there would be a lot of people investing in them that are the same people that Faber is trying to avoid. It's just not as necessary an evil as he thinks it is at the current time. It's avoidable technology. Best regards, Waj.
The waves crash endlessly against the pod as Rez and Scraper are traversing in their journey along the waves. Suddenly, they see cresting over the horizon a pod of dolphins making their dolphiny noise. It turns out the dolphins have become infected with nanomachines. As they swim forward, their bodies glisten like metal as they begin to morph and shift into missiles, and they head straight for the pod. How's she gonna get out of it? That's why you gotta send me the hand prop, Faber. I'll give you the rest of the story from there.